Welcome to the Dibley Diaries for this week. This week we're going to be thinking about the bit in John 13 where he says, "A new commandment I give you, that you love one another as I have loved you, and this is how people will know that you are my disciples." So we're coming on to that, and I was thinking of that in relation to the rural church, and I think I might have talked about this before, but it's really important, so I'm going to talk about it again. How is it in our church communities that we love one another when perhaps we don't like each other very much? This came to me as a bit of a revelation one day. I was really struggling with one of the church communities where I was working, and there were a few people there I could honestly say I didn't like. I really didn't like them, just all sorts of reasons why, and I was really struggling, and I was praying about it, and God said to me, I don't care if you don't like them, but you have to love them. I don't care if you don't like them, but you have to love them. That was my vocation as their church leader, and it's our vocation when we are living together in church communities. It's quite a brave thing to say. I have said it a few times in church communities, but actually the first time I said it I felt really difficult about it. It doesn't matter. God doesn't care. Jesus doesn't care if we don't like each other. But what he really cares about is that we love one another. Not liking each other is not an excuse for not loving each other. How do we manage this in rural communities? Why is it a bit worse there? Well, in rural communities, people are put together by geography. They are going to their local churches. They might be very different people. They might have very different histories. They might have very different circumstances. They might have very different political views. They might resemble someone's great uncle John or great aunt Edith, who was horrible to a person, and therefore that person has a lot of difficulty in liking that person. I have experienced people in church communities being really mean to each other in the past, and it's just not good enough. Jesus says you have to love one another. We might not like them, but we have to love them. And when we listen to Jesus' commandment in the gospel passage for this week, that's what we need to do to make us different to other people, so people can see that we are Jesus' disciples by the way that we love each other. This week we are thinking about the passage from John 13 verses 31 to 35 where Jesus says, "Love one another as I have loved you. In this way everybody will see that you are my disciples. Love one another as I have loved you. In this way everybody will know that you are my disciples." So I'm wanted to think about this week about how we love each other within the church community, but also I've been thinking about the quote from Douglas Adams. I'm going to read it because I keep getting the words in the wrong order when I try to remember it. So this is what Douglas Adams said. "And then one Thursday, nearly 2,000 years after one man had been nailed to a tree for saying how great it would be to be nice to people for a change." But loving one another in a church community goes a long way beyond being nice. I mean, being nice is a start, but it isn't what it means to be loving one another. And so I was thinking about how do the 5 love languages fit into this understanding of how we show love to each other within our church community. Now, love languages are usually used within a relationship setting as a tool for helping people think about their relationship, but I thought it was really interesting to think about them as a church community. what is it that we see or can do within our church community. So these 5 love languages, and I'm going to read them off the list, are acts of service, gift giving, quality time, words of affirmation, and physical touch. So these are suggested within a relationship of one with a significant other, but I think they're really useful to think about how they work in our church community, how we know that we see people providing love for each other in these ways. Acts of service. There will be so many people within your community, or people over time, that you have seen serve the church community, and that is their way of loving the church community. They may be cleaning, they may be polishing the brass, they may be making tea and coffee, they may be doing the accounts, they may be ordering the supplies. There is something in those acts of service which is the love language for the church community for that person. Gift giving. Now this is interesting because there's an expectation within a Christian community that people will give, but you know the people in your community, church community, who are good at giving, who love giving, who giving is a real showing of love for people in their Christian community, that they would give. Quality time. Now this is a really interesting one about, actually, are people prepared to put quality time into building the relationship with other members of their church community? Do they set aside time for church things, for church people? Do they have that quality time? And there will be some people for whom that's a really important aspect of showing their love within the church community. Words of affirmation. These can be so encouraging for people. I just remember someone who used to sit in, when I was quite a new vicar, used to sit in the front row of the church where I was working, and during my sermon, if she agreed with what I'd said, she'd nod her head. She was a very wise, mature Christian lady, and I loved it. She nodded her head when she agreed with what I said, and I found that affirmation really good. But there are people who are just gifted in saying, "You've done that really well, that was really good, this is a really good thing, let's remember how good this is." And then physical touch. This is difficult because so many people over the years have abused their positions of power within the church to use physical touch inappropriately. But there still remains within church communities and within the right boundaries in that, a place for people to physically touch other people. You have to know what the boundaries are, what's appropriate. Some people, when they come to church, really need a hug. Some people, when they come to church, just really need a hug. Some people, a hand on the shoulder, a hand on the arm, a firm handshake, just something. And you have to be able to judge how that is appropriate for different people, and how that fits well within boundaries. But sometimes you might be the only person that other person has touched all week. So we need to think about, actually, is there a safe and appropriate way within the right boundaries that we can provide that for people, especially those for whom receiving it is a real sign of the appropriate love within a community. So those are the 5 love languages. They are useful tools for thinking about love in a relationship, but I think it's a really good challenge for us to think about them as a church community. Which of those is how we prefer to show love? Which of those is how we prefer to receive love? How are we using those? And I presume there'll be more than one of those for each of us. How are we using those to show our love for each other, as Jesus told us that we needed to love one another? The Dibley moment of the week this week is about someone who wanted to give a gift as their love language and what we had to do about it. So we had an elderly gentleman who wanted to give a gift of a not very good cross-stitch tapestry of the Last Supper to be put into our Grade 1 star listed building. And after some discussion, we decided that we would put it up, even though we knew if we asked for permission for it to go up, we would not be given it. We decided that at that point love was more important than the rules, so we managed to find a nail that was already in the structure. We hung it up on that with the understanding that when that person died that we would take the tapestry down again, so it was a temporary addition, and so we didn't need to look for the rules. Geraldine in the Vicar of Dibley often faced these sorts of questions and always decided that in the end love was more important. Well, that's it for the Dibley Diaries for this week. I pray that you and your village, however large or small, have a really blessed week where your community can love each other.